Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday, working towards the weekend for most. That weekend starts this afternoon. I hope that's the case for you. If it is, we'll get you to the finish line. If not, we'll take you as far as we can go on this Thursday because we will not be here on Good Friday. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We do have Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And we got to pack two shows into one here, so let's get it all done. We will start with Jay Johnson talking yesterday to the media. We got a football practice report from today on the Ponderosa. We've got a free one up at LouisianaSports.net you can read, but I'll give you my thoughts coming up here in 15 minutes. Joe Healy will preview the SEC weekend, which starts really with 6 series tonight, so we'll talk to Joe at 1:30. Final Fours coming up this weekend. I want to touch on that. Chris Blair will be with us in the second hour. We'll talk some Saints, and I got to get you ready for LSU and Tennessee as well, a big one from Knoxville. But we're going to start with what Jay Johnson had to say yesterday regarding Major League Baseball. Let's do that with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
Jay Johnson, I've learned how he handles the media. I've learned. He rarely will speak on anything that is relative to competition. If he doesn't feel it gives him a competitive advantage, or maybe more clearly said, if he feels like something he says might give away a competitive advantage, he's not going to say it. He's not going to tell you who his starting pitcher is. He's not going to tell you why this guy played or why that guy played more often than not. Sometimes at the end of a regional, he might do that, or end of a weekend, he might do that. He's not going to give you much injury information. Like, he's not. He's happy to compliment his players. He's happy to give you a pulse of his locker room within reason. But he's pretty reserved and not necessarily an open book when it comes to the media. As I've said with Lane Kiffin, as I've said with Matt McMahon, as I've said with Will Wade, as I've said with Ed Ogeron, as I've said with Brian Kelly, I don't really care how you handle the media. But I'm going to take it for what it's worth. In some cases, it's not worth anything. In some cases, let's drill down. And yesterday, Jay Johnson was asked about Major League Baseball. It's pertinent because LSU is headed to Knoxville, Tennessee to play the Tennessee Vols this weekend. There'll be a pretty big hole in that dugout. Brand new Lindsey Nelson Stadium, pumped a ton of money into that thing, got a national championship logo on the wall, and the guy that brought it all there is gone with the San Francisco Giants. That, of course, is Tony Vitello. So the media asked Jay Johnson, like, are you paying attention, and do you have any interest in that? Now, keep in mind before we play this soundbite, Jay Johnson said, and I've got it pulled up right here, on January 22nd, 2023, January 22nd, 2023, that is entering his second season at the First Pitch Banquet before he had won a national title at LSU. He said, I would not leave LSU to be the manager of the New York Yankees. This is the best job in baseball. He said that. Now, let's fast forward 3 years and 3 months, and this is Jay Johnson when asked about Major League Baseball.
Right now, I have zero interest in that at this time. Now, that's at this time. You know, I haven't been offered an MLB job, is what I'll say. You know, I'm fully into this, and there's a lot that we need to do to be the best we can be, and I want to be the best program in the country forever, you know. So, you know, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. I'm following it closely. I mean, that was my team. I'm from Northern California anyways, so it says score you check, you know, if you turn on ESPN.com. I'm very interested to see how it goes.
So he says, I have zero interest in that right now. He clarifies. And then he doubled down on that and said, right now. Which indicates that there could be another time where I would be interested in looking at that. That would not make Jay Johnson unique at all. Tony Vitello just did it. Go through the guys in college basketball. John Calipari jumped. Rick Pitino jumped. Billy Donovan jumped. Larry Brown jumped. Fred Hoiberg jumped. Happens all the time. Mike Krzyzewski never did it, but it happens all the time. Look at college football. Nick Saban jumped. Steve Spurrier jumped. Jimmy Johnson jumped. I don't know if Barry Switzer jumped, but he went to the Cowboys. Like, this stuff happens all the time. When you are wildly successful at the college level, there's only one more place to go to challenge yourself against the best of the best. And Jay Johnson did not slam that door closed. He could have slammed the door closed. He slammed the door closed 3 years ago. He didn't today. He's a different guy. Got 2 national championships. And the game's very, very different now than it was. But speaking of that, the games are very different at the college level and Major League Baseball level. And listen to Jay Johnson's kind of reasoning as to what the differences are and why it may not be for him at this very moment.
It's a completely different game, though. It's a different world. You know, if people think college football and the NFL are different, like that and this and what goes on, it's the moon. You know, because I don't know, I'm sure NFL teams have this too, but like the Ivy League has taken over baseball, and the general manager, the Ivy League guys at the top, a lot of times make the lineup, make the pitching decisions, this and that. And you can ask Jake Brown how Coach Johnson would feel if somebody was telling him what lineup we were playing. So,
and that is very true. I mean, I follow Major League Baseball relatively closely. There are undoubtedly some of you listening that follow it more closely. There are more of you listening in this market in South Louisiana where we don't have a local team that don't pay as much attention to Major League Baseball as you do to college sports. But I'll tell you, like, some names that you might know that are reflective of what he's talking about there. Paul DePodesta, maybe a name you know, maybe not. If you watch the movie Moneyball, he was played by Jonah Hill in that he was the Moneyball guy who crunched the numbers. And Paul DePodesta was a big figure in Moneyball, and he had worked for Cleveland, and he ended up actually going to the NFL and working for the Browns, but he was kind of one of the first people in doing that. DePodesta went to Harvard. Theo Epstein broke the curse in Boston, broke the curse with the Cubs as the general manager of both of those situations. He went to Yale. Currently, the Dodgers are the biggest show in town, right? Andrew Friedman runs things there. Not Ivy League, but he got to Tulane. He went to the Freeman School of Business. He studied finance there, got a degree, and worked in private equity before going to run the Dodgers. So same type of deal. Chaim Bloom has run the Red Sox, now running the Cardinals. He went to Yale College. So I realize that's not Yale University, but they're related. These are the type of names and these are the type of people that are running a lot of the data. They want to know spin rates. They want to know pitch shapes. They want to know all kinds of different spray charts. And like it gets way deep in the weeds, deeper than I know and deeper than I care to go on the air. But you get the point that they're running this organization with spreadsheets and data, and they're suggesting that, hey, it may not work out with this hitter in this spot on this Tuesday, but if I run that simulation 162 times with this data that I've got, I'm going to get the result I'm looking for. And that's the way Major League Baseball truly is run, and it's driven a lot of old-time, old-school managers right out of town. And if you look at the age of managers right now in Major League Baseball, a lot of them are real young. However, so this is to put all that together. You've got the quote. He says, I don't have an interest right now, haven't been offered a job right now, and then says it's very, very different. But you could hear in his tone that he's leaving that door open a little bit. And the last piece of this, and it's not a soundbite that we have, but I wrote at LouisianaSports.net. He said it yesterday, and I'll just read it to you. He said, big league level, it's an individual sport. Major League Baseball is an individual sport. It's not a team sport until the postseason. I like being part of a team. That's where my head and my heart is right now. We'll see things change. That's where I'm at. It's very, very candid. He's being honest. Because Major League Baseball, you are trying to get there and stay. Not everybody in Major League Baseball is Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, and Shohei Ohtani. A lot of them are guys who are trying to stick on the end of rosters, and they're yo-yoing back between AAA and the big leagues. And the best way to do that is to take care of yourself and make sure that you produce. And you're trying to keep your job. That's what Major League Baseball is. Until you get to the postseason, then everybody's got their job and just trying to win the games. And I'm not suggesting that no Major League Baseball cares about winning. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a personal piece to it of trying to keep your job, and it's the most volatile sport of them all, sending guys up and down. Like, Yes, NFL guys get cut. Yes, NFL guys get brought up and down from the practice squad, but it's not like Major League Baseball where you're using a massive amount of players every single year. It is very, very different. So one of two things is true here with Jay Johnson. One, he's 100% telling the truth. He's focused on LSU. He's not interested in Major League Baseball at all right now. Things could change, but he likes the structure of college. He likes the winning and team aspect of college. He likes to set his own lineup. He likes to run his own show in college, and he doesn't really have any interest in the pros. He's telling the 100% the truth. The other piece to this is he doesn't really care about the MLB at all, but he's trying to leverage LSU in this never-ending tug-of-war of revenue sharing now. And maybe that's the case as well. I can't blame him for either one of those. Can't blame him for either one of those things. I can't blame him for telling the truth and having an eye on Major League Baseball, even though he's not interested right now and things could change. And I can't blame him for saying, hey, I'm the highest functioning program at this school. I've got 2 national championships in 3 years. And I realize that we've got to help everybody out and fund everybody, but I'd like my cut. And I'd like to have as much as Mississippi State, and I'd like to have as much as Arkansas, and I'd like to have as much as Texas A&M, and I'd like to have as much as Texas, and I'd like to have as much as Georgia. And I don't know which one it is. It's one of those two. The other piece to this is that, big league managers make some pretty good cash. I just looked it up before the show. Alex Cora, Red Sox, $7 million. AJ Hinch in Detroit, somewhere north of 5, potentially as much as 7. Pat Murphy with the small market Brewers, $8.95 million. Craig Counsell with the Cubs, $8 million. Jay Johnson's paid really well at 3, but these guys make more. So today is not the day to determine whether or not Jay Johnson's ever going to leave LSU or he's leveraging LSU or that. Today is not that day. But today is a day to look at that press conference answer, and I kind of shoo away a lot of Jay Johnson press conference answers when he tells me he wouldn't trade Stephen Milam for any shortstop in the country. Well, Milam's hitting 250, and the guy at UCLA is going to be the first pick in the draft. Might want to look into something there. Sometimes he says things, and I know he's talking to his team through the media, and I support his right to do it. I just don't have to listen to it or take it at face value. This seemed genuine to me. Either he means it or he's speaking through the media, I'm going to need the resources that I need, or else I'm not going to be able to get the players that I need in the transfer portal, and Mississippi State's going to get them, and Tennessee's going to get them, and A&M's going to get them, and I'm not. And so it was an interesting 2-minute soundbite of something that I am paying attention to, and I'm just curious to see what his tone and tenor is, or are, I guess, next fall and next winter. Because right now, you are hearing him say things that he has not said previously. He's telling Glenn Guilbeau on the record for Tiger Rag that we need to decide how good we want to be at baseball. He's now saying that he has no interest right now in Major League Baseball, but things could change. He's opening doors that he had never opened before, and I'm listening. You can't change revenue structure for this baseball team right now in April. I don't know what next year's revenue sharing looks like. I won't know until he leaves if he's going to leave for a Major League Baseball job or if there's even a team that wants to go down and grab a college coach. This may be an epic failure in San Francisco. But Jay Johnson's a damn good baseball coach. And I understand I want to scratch an itch like all those legendary coaches I gave you previously. I just read you off the salaries, and it's a chance to test yourself at the highest level for a guy who's proven himself at this level to be a superstar. I don't have any ill will towards any of this. I don't have any overarching reaction to any of it. I'm just listening. And sometimes when Jay talks in press conferences, I'm not. When it comes to injuries, I'm usually not. When it comes to how good his players are, I hope he believes in them. And I hope they are the best player in the country. But, he is prone to hyperbole in that sense. This was not hyperbole. This was honest or strategic. And I think we find out our answer after this season's put to bed, after another player acquisition cycle. That's what I think. And I'll promise you, I'll be right here to talk about it. This was not an end. This was an opening. This was something to take note of and circle back to. I'll do that. That's our opening drive. It's brought to you by our friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. When we come back, I was out watching football practice today. I took a look at a couple position groups of note. There were a couple of injuries that we want to catch you up on as well. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Swing Easy, GCBR.com. There's a pretty big golf tournament next weekend. Probably heard of it. Give out a jacket at the end. You want to play that course on the simulator? It's right there at Swing Easy Golf Club. I love doing it. Have a lot of fun. You can actually move up to those member tees and shoot a decent score. It's really fun. If you've never played on a simulator, go see them at Swing Easy Golf Club. They're on Seagan at Perkins. Get a tee time, tee it up, bring some friends, bring some family on this holiday weekend. They'll bring you a bucket full of ice, seltzers and beers, glass of wine, play some tunes, and play one of the great courses in the world. You can play St. Andrews, Cypress Point. How about Pebble Beach? Also a great time. It's just a different way to experience golf, and if you've never done it, I just highly recommend you give it a try. Swing Easy Golf Club. They're on Seagan at Perkins, online at swingeasygcbr.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Sagrera Farms. It's grilling season, y'all. Great time to get burgers on the grill, get steaks on the grill. Love doing that at my house. I'm a big steak guy, and it's something that I demand quality in. Not everything do I demand quality in. I don't really care at times what kind of car I'm driving. I can slum it in a hotel that's not a 5-star. I don't really have any interest in eating a low-quality steak. Like, that just doesn't sound good to me. And that's why at my house we eat Sagrera Farms. If you're not happy with the quality of the steaks you're getting, you're not happy with the quality of the beef that you're getting, wherever it is that you buy those, get the prime. Get the best. Top 2% beef in the country. It's just north of Baton Rouge at Sagrera Farms. I tell you every week about the scores that separate the select from the choice to the prime. Talking about select at 0 to 3 on the IMF scale. You're talking about 60% of beef that's in that choice range, which is going to be 3 to 6, 8, 7, or 8. And then 8, 9 plus, that's your prime. At Sagrera Farms, Sean's got cows on his land right now that are 14, 16, 17, 18, double prime. That's what you can have in your freezer. If you go buy half a cow, go buy a quarter cow, go buy a whole cow. Split it between families, split it between friends. It's a great time to do that in the summer when you want to get those burgers on the grill, want to get those steaks on the grill. There's no better spot to get them than Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. You can give Sean a call, shoot him a text, tell him you heard about it on the Hunt Palmer Show. It's 225-719-1723, 719-1723. That's Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. All right, today we were out at the practice field again. We're out there at the practice field when you can hear that music blaring. Lane's got it churning every single day. And the guys were out there in helmets and shoulder pads. First little housekeeping note with the injury stuff. Whitweek's still not practicing. No timetable for him on when he will return. I didn't even see him out there today. That's not to say that he wasn't there, but he certainly wasn't working out with the linebackers. Trey'Dez Green was in a black jersey on Tuesday. I've never seen a black jersey before. The whole team's in purple and white. The quarterbacks and non-contact guys are always in yellow, and he was in black on Tuesday. Not sure. Today, he was in gold, so no contact. However, he did go through all the drills that I saw. He went through the 11-on-11, which is not full contact. They got shoulder pads and helmets on, but not full contact. And then he certainly went through the receiving drills as well. And then you got Sam Levitt. I told you on Tuesday, Sam Levitt was going through the read option drills when they gave it to running backs. He was going through all the throws as he has all of spring. But when they went into quarterback design runs, he didn't participate. Today, he did some read option fakes and running up the middle. He did a little bit of jogging up the middle. That's not really noteworthy, but he is progressing to do something more each and every practice. I'll say this, and I think I said it on Tuesday, but I'll say it again. I'll probably stop harping on it now that we've seen him for 2 weeks. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon. I'm not a doctor. I am not Sam Levitt. I'm not a trainer. I have no qualifications for this whatsoever. However, watching him on April the 2nd, watching him in the last week of March, my doubts about his ability to play and play at full strength on Labor Day weekend are very small, if not none. Like, he's already bouncing around out there in shoulder pads, throwing a lot of passes, going through read option stuff, like jogging. Like, again, I have no medical knowledge. It just looks like he's doing pretty good. So I'll get off the Sam Levitt stuff for now. I did watch a lot of red zone passing in my time. No defense. They're just working on route combinations, and you saw a lot of rub routes. You saw a lot of angle routes where the backs out of the backfield and the wide receivers are running sharp ends and slants. You saw a lot of drags along the back of the end zone. Saw a lot of fade routes. Saw some outs as well. And I was struck in watching them from up close. They were down in the end zone right next to us, which always helps. It's just hard to evaluate things from 45, 60 yards away. When they were right there in front of us, my general thought on this wide receiver group is that it's small and fast. You've got guys that are out there like Trey Wilson, like Jace Brown, like Phillip Wright. There are a lot of guys, Tyree Holloway, Winnie Watkins, that are sub 6'1", in some cases sub 6 feet, that are really fast, that can really go. And that is true. They have those guys. I just listed off a number of them. But also, when I look at this wide receiver group, there is a little bit more size than maybe I thought of initially. You look at Trey Brown, who comes from Old Dominion. He is legitimately 6'2" and looks it out there. There's a reason Ohio State and LSU were after him. I think he's actually, let me see what I wrote here. Yeah, he's listed at 6'4", so he may be legitimately tall. Jackson Harris, the Hawaii transfer, is absolutely 6'2" and looks like a bigger frame, bigger body wide receiver. Harris is out there with the ones a lot. I think they like him a lot. He had a big season at Hawaii last year, had a lot of yards per catch. He's got a big frame. So that's two guys that are taller. And then Roman Mothershed, who I'm not sure exactly where he is on the depth chart. I did hear when they got him from Troy that a couple of the staff members thought they really had a diamond in the rough. That's something that Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss really pride themselves on. And I think Billy Glasscock is one of those guys as well. Mothershed is 6'5", and he made a catch in front of me today where he leapt in the back of the end zone and made a high point catch that was way up there. And of course, I'm not even mentioning in this discussion Trey Green, who's the best jump ball player in college football. So that's four guys between Jackson Harris at 6'2", Trey Brown at 6'4", Mothershed at 6'5", and Trey at 6'7". They've got size if they're looking for size. And I'm not asking for all four of those guys to be massively impactful players. If one or two of the wide receivers is good and Trey is good, having three of those guys, you got plenty. You can stick the other guys in the slot, let them go to work, and that's great. I told you how good I thought that Jace Brown has looked throughout camp in spring. I think he has. They do have some size that I thought was really good. I saw two drops today. One was by, let me look at my note here. One was by one, which is Jace Brown. Jace Brown had one drop, and then Trey Wilson had a drop. They were doing some push-ups for those. But those are the only two balls I really saw hit the ground other than one Sam Levitt overthrow. Saw a lot of connections. No defense, no surprise. But I thought it looked crisp. The quarterbacks looked good. They were on target very, very often, and the guys were catching the ball with their hands, which looked good. Switching over to the cornerback position, I just took a good look at them in the pads today, and it struck me that they are slender at corner. That doesn't mean they're not physical, but they're not imposing. DJ Pickett is imposing because he's 6'5", but he's still thin. PJ Woodland's never going to be a big corner, right? Like, he's going to put on some weight over the time at LSU. He plays fearless. He puts his nose in there. He hits people, but he is slender. Jakeem Jackson is the biggest corner they have in terms of filling out the uniform. He's been in college for 3 years, and he's a bigger guy. But beyond those three, Pickett, Woodland, and Jackson, who are the first three corners that come in, you're looking at Michael Turner, who's listed at 162 pounds. You're looking at Aiden Anding, who's listed at 170 pounds. And you're looking at Havon Finney, who I saw today, who looks like a player that should be a junior in high school in his second semester as a junior. He reclassified and enrolled early. So he's theoretically should still have 3 semesters of high school left. He's on the practice field. It surprises me a little bit that they did not go out and get one transfer who is a senior who weighs 194. Like, it just surprises me a little bit that Corey didn't do that. However, I implicitly trust Corey Raymond to evaluate and develop corners. He does it all the time. And the point remains that if you're looking for a little bit more size, they've got big DBs that they are playing in the box. TaMarcus Cooley can come down. Deshaun Spears can come down. Ty Benefield can come down. All those big safeties are physical, are big, are imposing. And if you need to deal with the big tight end in the slot, or you need somebody to come down and play the run in the secondary, you do have the option of getting those guys in there at the nickel and star positions. And I think LSU will. You've seen some of that already. So it's Pickett is got long enough arms and is a second-year player. He can play people at the point of attack. P.J. Woodland's never scared of anybody, and Jakeem Jackson's big enough to do it. They just, if you lose one of those guys, which is always a possibility, beyond them, you are thin in depth, but thin just filling out the uniform. It's just it's obvious to me to look at that cornerback room. I've seen bigger and more physical cornerback rooms at LSU. Everybody's not going to look like Patrick Peterson, I promise. But I've seen, when you think about Stingley and Fulton, like those guys were bigger when they were out there. Mansour Delane last year was a bigger player. They're a little bit slender at cornerback this year. That struck me a little bit. There's still time. Put on 5, 8, 9, 10 pounds before now and Labor Day. But right now, it's a thinner group out there at corner. So that's a look at LSU football today on this Thursday. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Take a time out, come back and preview the SEC weekend, which starts with 6 games tonight with Joe Healy of D1 Baseball. He's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Don't get caught with your power out. It's just a huge bummer, especially the time of year where our power goes out the most, which is, of course, in the summer when we got those afternoon thunderstorms that roll through, and, of course, hurricanes, which those leave you out without power for a few days. It gets real uncomfortable in that house in a hurry. Make sure you're prepared this year from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. They're locally owned and operated, have been for 40 years. Neil and Melissa have been running things for 40 years. Give them a call at 985-397-1562 or at 225-300-9389. They're your local Generac standby home generator outlet. They have it installed. They monitor it. They service it, all local. You can get that generator from the folks at the big box stores. Where's the customer service once you walk out the door once it's installed? At Boudreaux's Electrical, you never have to wonder about that. Check them out online at boudreauxelectrical.com. That's boudreauxelectrical.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
It's a busy Thursday in the Southeastern Conference. 6 series cranking up tonight. LSU and Tennessee will wait until tomorrow, so they'll be one of 2 series that are scheduled to play on Sunday. Knoxville weather not looking awesome for Sunday, but we'll worry about that when we get there. D1 Baseball, SEC Extras, Joe Healy with us on Thursday, also with the Highway to Hoover podcast. Joe, how are you?
Doing all right, Hunt. Believe it or not, second half of the regular season seems like it comes faster and faster every year, and here we are.
It's almost here. Let's talk. Well, it's the second half of the regular season. I'm talking about conference play. We still got a couple of weeks, but to your point, that is correct. What team under 500? That's exactly 4-5. Are you most concerned about between Auburn, Oklahoma, LSU, and Arkansas? All 4 are 4-5 after 3 weeks.
Probably Oklahoma, when you consider that the thing that I liked most about that team in the non-conference, and even early on in the first weekend of conference play, was that starting rotation, and it was able to uplift a lineup that I think is solid but not great necessarily. So if that's going to backslide, I'm really concerned about Oklahoma, just because I don't know that they're going to have the firepower to get it done to make up for not getting the pitching they got early in the season. Some of the other teams, I just think I have a higher level of conviction in them coming out of it. Even LSU, with all the struggles they've had, we know the talent level is what it is. Nobody's sitting around going, well, this team is just, maybe it's not as talented as some other LSU teams, but no one is sitting around saying oh, this team just isn't talented enough to win games in this league. It's just a matter of getting it going and figuring out the right combinations. Whereas with Oklahoma, it felt like they had a pretty narrow path to being relevant at the top of the SEC. And if it's not starting pitching, getting it done, I'm just not sure how else they would do it.
Very, very surprising sweeps last week from Alabama against Auburn and then from Florida at Arkansas. Which of those two teams seems the most for real to you?
That's such a good question because it's like the sweeps is just so hard to know what's real and what's just a matter of one weekend. And but I think of the teams that swept there, I think I like Florida better just because it is a top 5 talented roster. Now they haven't played like it; they've had some injury issues, but in terms of talent on that roster, it's. I mean, we seriously in the preseason talked about ranking them higher than we did. We had them as a top 10 team. We talked about them being in the top 5, just couldn't quite get there at the time. But in terms of on-field talent, they're right there. So, I think I feel best about them. But I got to say, like, if Alabama is going to get, those 2 starting pitchers, if they're going to get Faye and Adams being like this week after week, now obviously, Faye has given up 1 hit in his last 14 innings. That's not going to hold. But if he is as solid as he's been so far this season, and Tyler Faye continues to pitch, Zane Adams continues to pitch like he has, they're going to be in every single weekend. I just don't know that I have as much conviction because the position player group has a high floor, but it has a pretty limited ceiling. And I think in this league, you've got to be able to you've got to be a high ceiling offense to really be at the top of the conference.
Let's talk about some of the games tonight. We'll start with Arkansas, who is at Auburn. Both those teams, as we mentioned, 4-5 in league play. Both were swept last weekend. How do you see that one on the Plains?
Yeah, if you're Arkansas, you've got to get more out of Gabe Gackle. Last weekend, he just wasn't very good. His command wasn't there. The fastball was really spraying. And he's got to set the tone, especially given that Auburn continues to get good stuff out of Jake Marciano. It certainly hasn't been his fault that Auburn has taken a step back. He's continued to pitch extremely well. So I do think it comes down to which guy gets more out of that number 1 starter. As boring of an answer as that is, the other piece I'll be interested in is as that weekend goes on, is which of these offenses that in theory looks like it could be pretty strong but hasn't been so far this season, do either of them show signs of being improved as time goes on? Because right now, that's the issue for both sides, is neither offense has really been producing all that much.
Here's the worst question I'll ask you during this interview. I was in Omaha last year, and I saw Arkansas and Baton Rouge for 3 games last year. I covered 5 games they played, and I called him Cam Kojal all 5 games, and now I read Camden everywhere. What happened there?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's kind of like, I went by Joey, until I was, in college. I was a Joey, and then I just one day I just kind of woke up and was like, I think I'm a Joe. I'm definitely not a Joseph. I'm not a Joseph. So maybe it's just that. Maybe he just woke up and decided I'm Camden now. Or maybe it's the confusion over, like, he was just like, we've got too many Cams in this conference. We've got 2, for goodness sakes, we've got 2 Cam Johnsons on one team.
Yes.
We need someone who's a Camden. So maybe he's trying to fill in a gap there and try to, that be his thing, as being a Camden. I don't know. It's a good question, but I suspect it's a little bit like what I described. He just woke up and decided he wanted to be a little more grown up.
He was the toast of the town in Omaha last year, an Omaha native. His dad was on the Rosenblatt grounds crew, and I wrote about him extensively. And then all of a sudden I looked up this year, and I was like, that's not just a one-time thing. They're all calling him Camden. I can do that, but LSU doesn't play Arkansas this year. So maybe in Omaha we'll get that chance. Georgia and Mississippi State are trying to get to Omaha. They'll play in Starkville this weekend. Georgia looks pretty good by my eye, and so does Mississippi State. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. That's my series of the week. I've got a story on it on the site now. Folks can go and read. On paper, when I first started trying to break down the series, I thought, well, 1 to 10 wins in a game. And then I thought, well, actually, as I look deeper into it, and that could still be the case, right? I mean, the wind blows out, whatever. The conditions are such that if this is college baseball, it could be a high-scoring series. But I looked at it a little bit more, and, even with the injury to Ryan McPherson, I really like what Mississippi State has on the mound. The bullpen has found some new pieces. Even if the guys like Ben Davis aren't pitching as well as they figured out of the bullpen, they found some new pieces there. And Charlie Foster looked pretty good out of the rotation last weekend. We'll see if that holds for 2 weekends in a row. And then you look on the Georgia side, and I don't like their pitching as much as State's, but I still like it a decent bit. And the thing that's kind of put them over the top this season is, I don't know when this happened, but they're apparently the best defensive team in the league this season. And I don't know that I buy that as like I don't think they're making a lot of outstanding plays out there just based on what I know of the personnel. But at a bare minimum, fielding 986 means you're making every single routine play. And that's a big difference maker. You're not giving people extra base runners. So as long as they can keep the walks down, which is always a question with Georgia, they're going to keep extra bases free bases from happening from errors. I think that's a little bit of an advantage. So it's a toss-up for me. I don't even remember, to be honest with you, Hunt. I don't even remember who I picked in our weekly pick'em because I think I literally just was like throwing something at the wall. So we'll see. My hunch tells me State here, but I'm hoping for a competitive series.
No, Ole Miss is 3-6 in the league, but they have played Texas and Mississippi State already, which I think has to be considered. They'll go to Florida in Gainesville this weekend. How big a series is that for both teams?
Yeah, I think it's big. I mean, for Florida, it's an opportunity to prove that they are an upper level team in this conference and not just a team that has caught teams at the right time. I think that's on the line for them here. I mean, if they win this series, they're looking at worst 8-4 in the league going into the halfway point next weekend. So that's big. And then if you're Ole Miss, I mean, I think this is huge just because I think there's a little bit of a crisis of confidence there in terms of just being able to string together results for them. And to me, they've just been exposed offensively. We've talked about that on this show. Yeah. Whether it's SEC competition on the weekend or whether it's Memphis, a not very good Memphis team in the midweek, they've just not really, when the ball's not leaving the ballpark, they've had a whole lot of trouble scoring runs. And, their pitching has gotten healthier. Cade Townsend is back, and he looked pretty good. They switched up the rotation a little bit this week. Taylor Rabe is going to take over as not Friday, a Thursday guy in this case. But it feels big for Ole Miss because if they come out of this weekend with another series loss, I think there's going to be a little bit of a concern that maybe this just is what they are from a team standpoint this season.
All right, let's talk about LSU and Tennessee. They'll start tomorrow in Knoxville. I have not seen pitching rotation set. I'm assuming that Tennessee is going to go back with Arvidsson and then put Coons in the bullpen like they did last week, and then go with Mack and Blanco. What do you make of this pitching staff that Tennessee is kind of settling on?
I think I like the change. First off, Tegan Coons, and I saw this a little bit when I saw him in the Cape. It strikes me as the type of guy that really just needs to know that he can go out there and empty the tank. And if it lasts 2 innings, great. If it lasts 3 innings, even better. If it lasts 4 innings, you're really thankful for that. So I think having him as a piggyback guy off of Arvidsson, I like that change. It worked well last weekend. We'll see what to make of it this weekend. The key for me is Evan Blanco. He wasn't very good last weekend, but he was so good for the first 6 weeks of the season. And I think that's more of what he is. Like, I think last week is going to be seen as the outlier versus what he was before that. Let's not forget this is a guy who, was the Friday guy for Virginia on a team that got to Omaha. Like, the guy just knows how to pitch. Like, it's not the most electrifying stuff you're ever going to see, but he knows how to get outs. He knows how to manage being a starting pitcher. I think he's too good to be closer to what we saw last week than what we saw the first 6 weeks of the season. And Landon Mack's been solid enough. Like, you'll take what he's given you as a Saturday guy throughout the season. So, now what I will say is I'm not 100% sold on the Tennessee bullpen. It still feels like maybe like some guys, they want to be key pieces of that puzzle. I'm not as sold on. It doesn't feel like they have a Nate Snead out there, kind of that guy that they go to whenever they're in trouble or whenever they need to get out of a jam or whenever they need somebody to throw 3 innings and they're kind of panicking. Like, he was a little bit of a security blanket out there, and I'm not entirely sure they have that guy. So that's maybe not something that's going to get talked about as much, but I do think it's extremely important for this team.
What about Cam Appenzeller? Because his numbers jump off the page.
Yeah, no, he's definitely he's definitely an exception to that. He's been excellent so far this season. You never know what to expect with freshmen right out of the gate, but yeah, certainly he looks like maybe the next guy. And perhaps I'm underselling him a little bit, but yeah, we'll see if they continue to expand his role. He's already pitched a decent bit, but the interesting thing with him is going to be if there are, like, how good does he? And this was the question with Nate Snead so often, like, how good does he need to be before you start to consider if something else doesn't work out in the rotation, like maybe you just need to move him there. So we'll see, but he has been the exception to the rule. It's a good point you bring up.
Has LSU done anything to change your thoughts on their offense by scoring 1 billion runs on Kentucky's bullpen, Louisiana Tech, and the stuff that they've done here over the last week and a half?
No, not really. I mean, I kind of looked.
I tried.
I know that. Yeah, I know that's really like a pretty non-interesting answer for your listeners, but not really, because I just that felt like the classic SEC rock fight on Sunday last week where nobody really has any faith in anybody they were bringing out of the bullpen. If it was 17-4, I might have felt differently, but it was 17-10, and it just sometimes those games can almost be contagious, where both teams are just scoring runs at will because nobody can string outs together. So it felt more like that than it did LSU figuring some things out. Although I do think they have started to narrow on some stuff. Like I just think Seth Dardar just needs to be the second baseman at this point. Like he's the guy who's been the most consistent there, and obviously you got to find somebody who can just do it defensively well enough, and I think he'll do it well enough. And with the way he's swinging the bat, it kind of strikes me that, he probably should just be the guy. And I think we've arrived at the time of the season where whoever Jay thinks of and I know he likes to use his whole roster, and that's one of I think the best things about the job he does at LSU. But I do think we're at the point of the season where you got to kind of settle on your 9 and just let them go out there and see what they can do, because you've got to get guys in a groove here, and I think this is an opportunity with Dardar to finally settle on somebody at a position that has been a little bit of a question mark this season.
Joe, enjoy the baseball this weekend. We'll talk next week.
All right, Hunt, see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, SEC Extra on D1 Baseball, also the Highway to Hoover podcast. You can catch him on YouTube in the mornings on the weekend with the Weekend Waypoints. He's with us on Thursdays. Reminder about our friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC, FabryChevrolet.com. Every car that is on that lot on Highway 61 in St. Francisville is online at FabryChevrolet.com. So if you're looking for a new truck, up to $11,000 off Chevy Silverados, up to $13,000 off GMC Sierras. Incredible deals at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. They've been here for 35 years, the Fabry family in Baton Rouge. You know the family. You know the customer service that they're going to offer. You know what the buying experience is going to be. It's going to be wonderful. So start that process at FabryChevrolet.com. Go see them. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. It's Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Come back and give you a nugget on the Final Four. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. HighlandIG.com is that website. If you're looking for another option for your group employee benefits, you can find that at Highland Insurance Group. There's one carrier in town that has been raising rates year over year over year, and it starts to squeeze you a little bit. Employee benefits can be really expensive, but they're important to attract talent to your organization and to maintain that talent in your organization. So if you are just uncomfortable with the renewals that you continue to get from a benefits side, from a health insurance side, and you want a second opinion, you want a second option, contact Jonathan Carbo and the Highland Insurance Group. They are happy to help you out with that. They're online at HighlandIG.com. They're based right here in Baton Rouge. Of course, they can handle your property and casualty needs if you are a business looking for your P&C insurance. But if you're looking for benefits as well, the Highland Insurance Group, find them online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms, Premium Angus Beef. Sagrera Farms bringing you our Thursday shows. Final Four starts up on Saturday evening. Just a quick thumbnail on this. I saw one of the most unbelievable statistics I've ever seen in my life looking up details on these two teams.
What'd you find?
One of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. There are 365 teams in college basketball.
Yep.
Care to guess where Illinois ranks in turnovers forced?
They play kind of European, so probably like low, like super low.
365th. They're last.
So they don't foul nobody.
No, they don't turn anyone over.
Oh, so they don't steal the ball.
They don't steal the ball.
They don't steal the ball.
Turnovers forced, they're last.
They're just ethical. They're just like, we just out here.
Now, the offset to that is that they rebound really well.
Yep.
So when you think about turnovers forced, you think about limiting shots.
Yep.
You can also limit them if you rebound after one. So there's a give and take there, and it's not like they're bad on defense. They're 69th in defensive efficiency, which is last among these groups. You look at the efficiency rankings, like Illinois is first in the country in offense and 69th in defense. UConn is 47th on offense, 14th on defense. Two solid teams that have a significant strength. Illinois can score. UConn can play defense. You look at Michigan and Arizona, it's ridiculous.
Stars.
Michigan is 4th in the country on offense and 8th on defense. Arizona is 8th on offense and 6th on defense, which means they're top 8 in all four. So like that's the heavyweight fight.
Yep.
I just could not believe in watching and looking at the Illinois statistics that they are dead last in the country in anything and in the Final Four.
Yeah, man.
You're telling me you can't find Bellarmine or Marist or Prairie View A&M worse than like that's incredible to me to be last.
That just means also what helps them is they're not fouling teams, so they're never getting into foul trouble. So that means their guys are able to keep going. They're not getting these petty reaching.
And they're first in offensive efficiency in the country.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's wild is that Brad Underwood's teams at Stephen F. Austin pressed and turned people over like crazy.
Also like a flip. It's like a
Yeah,
flip.
now he's at Illinois and he gets way better players. You get some pros. He's like, well, we don't have to play like that and we'll just be completely different. That to me is one sign of a good coach. It's not a bad thing to be awesome at one thing.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's impressive to me when you can do something two different ways, and Brad Underwood has done that. As far as the games go, I'm just not here to bet against UConn. UConn's never lost a game in the Final Four,
lost a game
so
in the Final
I'm not here to go against Healy, especially when I consider that Illinois is unlikely to turn them over, and they're going to get shots, and they're in the top 25 in the country in field goal percentage. So I like UConn in that game.
Yes, sir.
Michigan, Arizona. I'm not going to come off my pick here. I picked Michigan to win the national championship, so I'll take Michigan in this game as well. I don't have a ton of conviction in that pick because I think Arizona is so good.
Just as good, yes.
But I just like Michigan's bigs, and they just make life really difficult on you. So I'll go with Michigan.
They're physical. Lindenberg is a problem.
Yes.
But Arizona, they have the size, and Arizona's kind of like a football team. They're like a running game. They don't shoot many threes. They're going to just pound you. So they can get Michigan in foul trouble. It's going to be leaks in the dam.
Yeah. Tommy Lloyd is going to look back at the next 3 weeks of his life for the rest of his life.
Yes.
What do you do in the Final Four for the first time ever? And do you take the North Carolina job and change things?
They're coming.
It's the 3 weeks here that he's got to make all that work. So give me the Huskies, give me the Wolverines. Great basketball though. I'm in for heavyweight fights. You're getting them starting on Saturday afternoon. We'll come back, talk some LSU baseball against Tennessee and some Saints.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, LifetimeRoofingLA.com, LifetimeRoofingLA.com. You know, Lifetime Roofing is a Baton Rouge-based roofing company that was started and now run by lifelong South Louisiana residents that really care about this community. Far too often in the roofing game, there's some sort of weather event, and roofing companies come in from all over the place and see how much they can make the cash register ring. New roof, new roof, new roof. They don't care about you. They're not going to be here after they install that roof. Don't let that happen to you. Roofing is often an industry where you're going to get multiple bids. You're going to get multiple quotes, and that's okay. But consider Lifetime Roofing, and then consider the fact that you're going to get a lifetime workmanship warranty, that you're going to get financing options up to 18 months, and that you're working with a local Baton Rouge-based, South Louisiana-based company. It's Lifetime Roofing. Find them online at lifetimeroofingla.com.